Intro.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey.
Hope you guys are well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know us, my name is Ulrich.
And I'm Siobhan.
And this is Two Love Collective, guys. And here at Two Love, we believe that our whole ethos, the whole kind of rudiments of why we do what we do, is to help each and every one of you listening to us to believe in love again. Because we believe that it doesn't matter where you are in your relationship, and that's not just romantic. It can be, siblings, parents, parent to child. It doesn't like wherever you are in your relationship. There's always space for you to believe in love again and take that relationship to another level. So for the past this is the 5th week.
Wow, has it been 5?
We've been talking about the art of communication.
Hey.
And that's because we thoroughly believe that at the root, one of the things we were learning from the 2 series we did before, where we're talking to a divorce lawyer, the foundation of why relationships break down is because of communication. So we thought we had to talk about it. Do you know what I mean?
What better area to actually cover? Because when we were speaking with the divorce lawyer, she just outlined it so eloquently by saying, do you know what? Any of the issues that they put down, when you get down to the bottom of it, it still comes down to communication. So even if it means they're not affectionate enough, or it means that they've stepped out and they've had an affair or whatever, it always boils down to communication.
Yeah.
What wasn't being communicated, or what was being communicated. So over the weeks we've covered mixed messages, we've covered emojis, we've covered a number of different topics.
Yes.
But today our topic is man cave and autopilot.
Jeez. Man cave and autopilot. I think to define it, I've been kind of thinking about it most of the day today. And I think for many of us, obviously, guys, please shout out and let me know, what you think. But I think the man cave is kind of like, the way I define it is the place that men go when they are in a state of processing a particular season in their life, which they may not have the answers to, or they may not know how to navigate. So it's very much a place where we kind of go into ourselves. Some people kind of see it as a state of depression, but I wouldn't really call it that. I would kind of say that it's very much a place. I'm just kind of trying to get my own thoughts together in terms of how I feel about it. But I think most of the time when I go there, it's because I don't know how to navigate a season.
That's good.
And I don't know the answer to what to do. And I think for many of us as men, that hits us quite hard. And sometimes we definitely don't know how to communicate during that season. It's very difficult for us to communicate because we're dealing with the thought of, I don't actually know how to deal with this. And to go a little bit deeper, many a times what we're actually doing is we're reflecting, for those of us who may not have had dad at home and all that kind of stuff, dealing with, not having a present father and all that kind of stuff. Most of the time, what we're doing is we're dealing with all of those issues again. Even if we have dealt with it, every time you face a situation that you cannot navigate, you automatically go back into that thought process of, I wonder if this would be easier had I had a father figure or a dad who was present enough to show me how to navigate this situation.
See, and even as you're saying that now, I never even thought that that's where you had gone to, because then it kind of diverts you from the point. So let's say the situation comes up and you don't know how to navigate this situation, but rather than spending the time coming up with a strategy of how to navigate this situation, you start looking at yourself saying, well, why is it I can't navigate this situation? Is it because I didn't have this? Am I ill-equipped? Am I facing this because X, Y, and Z did X, Y, and Z? So you get almost like you're sidetracked. You start having this other area that you're looking at.
100%.
And they're valid things to look at, but then what happens is this thing goes undealt with or unsolved.
Yeah.
And then because it's unsolved, it's just like, okay, this still has to be dealt with.
100%.
So then, oh no, it's been 2 days. Oh no, it's been 3 days. Oh no, it's been 4 days. And this thing still hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah. But I think it's really difficult because I think, you know, even when I think about myself, sometimes you can be in that state for years.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean? Because and that's obviously the complete extreme, but I think the reason sometimes why it stays longer is when, because you don't know how to navigate the season, you don't have anybody to help you navigate it.
Yeah.
So what happens is you're kind of stuck in a cycle.
That's good.
Because every time you go to tackle it, you still don't know the answer. And, you know, for those of you that, you know, believe in God or higher being or whatever, when you begin to process that with God, sometimes because of where you're at, sometimes the answer is difficult for you to even receive. Because you're looking at yourself, and thinking, well, why should I do that? Almost like there's a pride that comes as well.
That's good.
Where you don't want to change, and then you go back in again, and it's like, oh well, if I had died, if I had then this wouldn't be happening. So it's like a perpetual cycle, and sometimes you need someone to come in and grab you, and then and sometimes, in my case, I just had to get deeper into my relationship with God. For him to really like break me down, to show me that, look, it's okay not to know where you're going.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
But what you have to do is do your best to try to communicate where you are. And I think this is where the communication breakdown comes, because our female counterparts, they don't understand, because essentially what's happened is you've shut down.
Completely.
You've shut down, whether that be emotionally, physically, sometimes even mentally. Like you're just not there because you're just continually thinking about this situation or this season that you're in. And it's just weighed down on you, you know?
Yeah.
And so she might be saying, you know, well, what's going on with you? Blah, blah, blah. And she might be getting frustrated because she's essentially lost you, like lost a part of you.
Yeah.
But the issue is that you don't even know how to articulate it. So she's getting frustrated, you're getting frustrated because you can't give her an answer. And so what ends up happening most of the time, or some of the time, is that everybody blows up, and then it's just like,
new conflict.
I can't deal with this is too much, and then it becomes. But what I found is that sometimes the remedy ultimately comes down to communication in its simplest form, because although you may not know how to deal with a particular season, communicating with your spouse is really important. And that's why I always say to guys, like, we have to remember that there's two languages opposing each other. There's the language of facts, which is coming from generally the men, and there's the language of emotion, which is generally coming from the woman. And so sometimes when we are in that man cave, we sometimes refer to facts, which is just, well, yeah, I'm okay, or we give something factual. It's never emotional, because to express emotion is weakness.
You're preaching right now.
But we have to remember that emotion, because I think many men, particularly probably from, you know, the African background, may see emotion as a weakness. But what you have to understand is that emotion is a language. And it's a language that one must be understood. And if we're really going to get to a deeper communication with our female counterparts, emotion as a language needs to be something that we learn to speak.
Yes.
Because if you go to France, if you stay in France for any amount of time, you're going to have to pick up some French.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be
Interacting.
unable
Yes.
to communicate
Yeah.
in order to get what you need.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
And it's very rare. Now it's not as rare to find somebody in France who can speak English. And a lot of times, particularly British people, we expect that wherever we go,
They will speak.
people should be able to speak English.
Yeah.
That's an expectation sometimes that we have, but it's not always the case. So bringing it back to relationships, we have to understand that emotion is a language which, as men, we need to be able to communicate. And I think I learned this the hard way, because obviously Siobhan was just kind of at me for a season because she didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't understand what was going on, and it was almost like I didn't know what to say to her.
Yeah.
I could see her getting frustrated. I could see her getting annoyed with me, but I think that even made the situation even worse, because I couldn't articulate what was going on with me. Do you understand? And so we had to fight.
So I'm just going to give a small recap to kind of
Yes.
break it down, because I think for someone who's just joining, they're like, okay, so what is man cave? So man cave, as Ulrich has eloquently put it, I'll leave him to give the explanation, but I'll paint a scenario. So let's say something happens unexpectedly. Loss of job.
Death in the family.
Like something quite big. And as that thing takes
Not knowing
place,
your purpose.
Yeah, not knowing your purpose, or just
What decision to make.
an external pressure. So something that you're not expecting comes up as a bump in the road. A child gets sick or something like that. And now decisions have to be made as to how to navigate through that. Naturally, as a wife, you would look to the head to now say, okay, so how do you feel about this situation?
What do we do?
Notice what I've said. How do you feel about this situation? The response that often will come back is, I'm not sure. And then there's a silence. In that silence, the person that you're talking to is MIA.
But listen to what Siobhan just said. She asked, how do you feel? And I said, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very deep question to ask, especially a guy. Because many a times what happens is she will ask the question, how do you feel? And generally, even if he doesn't say, I'm not sure, the answer will be very factual.
Yeah.
It will have nothing to do with how he feels.
Yeah. So it's as guarded as possible. It's like an answer that is kind of like just a shut down door. It's like when you have a wheel that's turning on your computer screen and you're waiting for an answer. There's no answer as yet.
Yeah.
So now, whilst this person is processing, it's like they've gone away into themselves to process. But then they're still moving around the house. They're getting up to go to the toilet, but they're not making eye contact. Because they're processing in their thoughts. They're making themselves a cup of tea. And you're in the room. But you're not having the interaction.
Yeah.
So the problem is, what happens is you start to think, is he ignoring me? Is he upset with me? Why is he not interacting with me?
Yeah.
What have I done wrong?
Yeah. Oh, that's a big one.
So now you start pressing to say, is everything okay? It's just that you're not talking. Yeah, everything's fine. No, I'm cool. Well, you're not cool because you're not yourself. You're not talking. You just walk right past me. Yeah, I'm just thinking. So then, if that stays there for too long, what starts to happen is it builds up as almost like internalized as a female, and I can only speak for myself. It feels like, why am I getting the cold shoulder? In this situation where we've got this crisis or whatever it is, what we need to do is feel like we're more connected.
Yeah.
But what it feels like is disconnection.
And I think a lot of females feel that. Do you get what I mean? Because they want that connection, but it's difficult to give. But I think one of the things that I've always said to Siobhan, and it's something that I learned from a really good book to read, guys, is it's a book by T.D. Jakes. It's called Emotions.
Yes.
And that book transformed my life in such a big way, because it made me realize that I also have emotions.
Yeah.
And that definitely helped with my communication with Siobhan, in terms of articulating where I am. Because, you know, sometimes you can be in a place, but you don't know how to articulate, you know, where you are, what you're doing, or how it's affecting you. And so yeah, it just transformed my life, and it made me realize now, no, it's fine, Keon. And yeah, Deborah, you're so right. Giving names to your feelings is tough sometimes. Definitely. I don't know. Yeah, it's true. You know, saying that you don't know is a big deal. It is a big deal. But I guess where we're trying to come from is the vulnerability of being able to say that and admit that you don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? And how your counterpart feels about that. Do you understand? Because for a guy to say that he doesn't know, or to admit that he doesn't know, is almost to say that he's not in control, and that he's not strong, and that he's not powerful, or rather that he's weak, and he has no direction, and all of this kind of stuff.
And now you're preaching.
And I think as a people, I think we've built this thing in our minds where we think when we don't know what's going on, how to solve something, where to go next, it's almost like we internalize it, and say, I am a failure.
Yeah. And it's not the case. It's not the case whatsoever.
Definitely. And it's such a internally demoralizing
experience.
Place to be.
You're so right.
You know? And the one story that comes to mind, you know, is Abraham, right? The father of faith, right? And God meets him for the first time, the Bible tells us.
Yeah.
Up until this point, Abraham essentially is a heathen. Do you understand? He's been living with pagans and all that kind of stuff, but we know that his heart was obviously for God. And God speaks to him and says, leave your family and go to, or rather not even leave your family, leave your family and go to a place that I am going to show you. Yes. Let's just stop for 1 minute and just assess that sentence.
Come on.
Leave your family. So that means that's your dad. And obviously when you get deeper into the scripture, you understand that his father Terah, when you look at his name, it means delay. Because God had told him to go to Canaan, but he stopped.
Yeah, halfway.
So God needed to kind of, you know, revamp the whole thing and just be like, look, leave delay behind.
Hey.
And now go to a place that I will show you.
Yeah.
Now, think about that. As a man, you're taking your family, your children. And when he says take your family, we're not talking about, you know, just picking up like a couple of bags and just saying, yo, we're just on the road. Do you know what I mean? They're traveling with their servants.
Yeah.
They're traveling with their herdsmen. They're traveling with their flock. They're like everything.
They're
Tents.
yeah.
Everything. Cattle. Everything are gone, right? And they are going. They're on the road. They don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
Because God says, I am going to go to a place that I am going to show you.
Yeah.
Which means when you get there, I'll tell you that you're there.
That you're there.
When you're going left and it's wrong, I'll bring you back on track. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Abraham is called the father of faith. Many of us are saying, you know, we look at all of the different things that he did faith-wise, but that decision is fundamentally the reason why I believe that he's the father of faith. Because to take your family with no compass, with no word,
that's right,
no word of destination,
that's right, and
to say, I'm going to take you to a place that I'm going to show you.
It's deep. It's so
I'm
deep.
very sure that Abraham was in his cave.
It's so deep.
But he had to make sure that God was in that cave with him.
So we could hear
seriously
where to go left and to go right.
Let me read some of these comments. But yeah, so it's like it's a powerful thing. And the reason why we're talking about it is because this area doesn't get spoken about at all in church. And it's a very real area that we faced.
Yes.
Do you understand? Because I was at a place where I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Everything I had planned, everything that I expected marriage to be, to have done, to have achieved, to be, was completely stripped. And I felt like God was saying, I'm taking you in a different direction. You need to leave everything that you know and you understand, or you think you know, and you need to follow me. And that's a hard thing to do, especially when you've got people looking in at you and looking to see what is he gonna do now? Do you know what I mean? Where is he gonna go now? What is he on now? Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, guys, make sure that when you're in that cave, because there's nothing wrong with the cave.
And that's, I think,
there's nothing wrong with the cave.
Exactly. That's
but the key is, if you're in the cave, you can't stay in the cave for too long.
That's right.
And you need to build an ability to communicate.
There you go.
Whilst you're in it, because it will teach you how to communicate. Because your spouse will force you to come to a place of being able to communicate. And I think, ladies, you have to also be patient. Because during that season, one of the things T.D. Jakes said is that when you identify that he's in that place, you have to literally move with him.
Yes.
So it's almost like, he gave this illustration about being on a bike. I mean, I don't have a bike. I've never, I have been on a bike. I haven't driven a bike with Siobhan on it. And I'm talking about a motorbike, right? And one of the things that they say when you're on a bend, and there's two people on the bike, the person at the back needs to hold the person at the front, and they literally need to mimic their movement.
Yes.
Because if they don't mimic the movement, there will be an imbalance.
Yes.
And then both of them will fall off.
Exactly.
And so I say that to say, like, during that season, where you may be feeling like, oh my gosh, it's called He Motions. It's like it's a book. Yeah. But he's done like an audio book and all that stuff. So it's really amazing. Yeah. And so as you're moving,
you gotta move together.
And that's something that Siobhan had to learn.
Yes.
Because at first it was just, what's going on? And it was very much, oh, what have I done wrong? And that used to really vex me, because I'm just like, this is actually not about you. And although I knew why she felt the way that she felt, because at the end of the day, mate, she wants her husband back. She wants me to be in that place where I'm connecting with her. But there's certain times where we have to go through what we're going through. And because if we don't, then we can't come back to share the victory that we have won. Amen. Hallelujah.
So just to kind of come back, because I love, there's so much that you shared and I think it was so spot on. So a lot of this experience here that Ulrich is sharing, it was in our early stage of marriage. And I say it because it was how we had to learn how to deal with difficult and tough decisions in that season. So, I mean, like, second year in marriage, first year in marriage, third year in marriage, fourth year in marriage, where things were happening outside of our control. So it wasn't now just based on how we resolve a conflict between one another. It was also based on external things that you had no idea were coming. So let's say you're living somewhere and all of a sudden you get an eviction notice or something like that, and you're just like, okay, so where are we going to live? How are we going to do this? We don't have the money. You now have to think on your feet. You now have to come together. But as you're trying to come together, one person has slipped away. And so in the slipping away, as a wife or a spouse, you now have to be patient that this person's coming back. They are coming back.
Definitely. And I love what Arlene said. She's like, don't try and go in the cave and start cleaning and trying to sweep up the place.
Exactly.
Because actually it needs to be rugged.
And they need to be able to go in and do what they're doing and leave their cave as it is to find peace and serenity and like a space that they can think.
100%.
Because if you know they're coming back, you're not going to be pestering. And here's the point. When I discovered that Ulrich giving me what I felt like the cold shoulder, for me, I was like, so what have I done wrong? And he had to be like, it's nothing that you've done, it's nothing to do with you. And I was like, what do you mean? So then why are you doing what you're doing? Then it had to dawn on me, okay, cool. He just needs time and space. So if he goes for a walk or he has to go and sit and pray or something like that, I'm not going to be like, do you want me to pray with you?
Get out!
Or if he goes for a walk, what time are you coming back?
Jesus. Leave me alone.
It got to a stage that I had to allow him the freedom and the space to process. And that means not seeing it as he's ignoring me. Not seeing it as, well, he hasn't come over to me and given me a hug the way he usually does, or we haven't snuggled together, or all of that. I can't, like what Arlene was saying, I can't try and clean up I can't try and rush him along. I need to allow him that freedom to actually arrive there.
Definitely. But I think it's one of those things, like, I don't think that there's ever going to be a direct science to how to navigate this, because those seasons, it all depends. Do you understand? Sometimes he or she, I mean, we're going to get to the she in a second, but he may just do something mad that's completely out of character. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you're sitting there thinking, what? Why did you do that? Do you get what I'm saying? And anytime you spot that, you're in a turn. Seriously.
In a turn.
If a guy or your spouse or your dad or whatever, just for whatever reason, just does something really mad, it just means that they're in a turn. And you have to, as women of virtue, right? You have to be able to sense that and know, okay,
I can't even speak here. And that is a hard lesson to learn. Like what both Shida, what Kayon, even what Arlene is basically saying. It is hard to learn. This is something that is not spoken about. It's not something that you can read in a book. You actually have to live it. You actually have to walk this thing out and figure out, okay, cool.
It takes time. And this is why I said there's no prescription to how this works, because your spouse, your partner, whatever, is going to be completely different.
Because their
no one
situation,
person is
yeah.
the same. Do you understand? Their mannerisms, their background, you know, we've been talking about it for so long.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's the posture.
Yes.
I think that's the right word. It's the posture that you take during those turns. Do you know what I mean? And you yourself are being challenged by that turn.
Yeah.
Because especially if it's a turn that you haven't taken before, it's going to challenge you
Yes.
on, geez, what do I do? How do I behave?
Yeah.
How do I speak? How do I make sure that I'm not an irritation to him?
Ooh.
How do I make sure that I'm not a nuisance or an
preaching.
annoyance?
You're preaching.
Because these are all the things that we went through. Do you know what I mean? And when I'm trying to process myself, having to deal with that just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And it makes me even more angry, because what's happening is that there's now more things
That you're adding to the plate.
that you're adding to the plate.
So instead
Because
of
now I don't understand why you're... Now I don't know what's going on with you.
yeah,
Because this ain't got nothing to do with you.
and I ain't got time to start dealing with your stuff when I'm still trying to process my stuff. Why are you trying to make this about you? Now that's what it was for us.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make this about you, Siobhan? And it was like, what do you mean? You've made it that it's not about me, and I don't know why it's not about me.
Yeah.
And like, I love what you ladies are saying, because this is something, like Shina said, she's had to pray through the situations. Like what Arlene said, she's had to discern when to step back. And here's the joke. So what's kids were saying, I understand the reason for giving space, but potentially there are times where you have to knock on that man cave. Right. And this is what I was just about to come to. When they've been in for too long.
It's true.
There's a danger that it now turns into a depression. And this is where it's a thin line of it being like, I am processing, I can't find my way out, to, do you know what? I can't keep fighting this.
Yeah, I'm going to just stay right here.
I'm just out.
Yeah.
And when you see that, listen, in the Bible, in the tabernacle days,
Preach it.
when the high priest would go into the holies of holies, he would have the line on him, and the bells.
And the bells.
Yeah?
Bells. Can't forget
So,
the bells.
when he would be walking around attending to the Ark of the Covenant, you would hear the bells to know that he's still alive in there. But if something were to happen to him whilst he's in the glory and the presence of God, if God were to smite him or take him out for whatever reason, if they don't hear the bells moving anymore,
sorry,
they need to draw him out. They need to pull the dead man out.
Jesus help us.
Now I'm saying something today. Those who know, they know. If the man has been in there for too long, you've given the space. You've been patient. You've been in the turn. You've been in the other turn. Now there ain't no turning. There's no shadow of turning. There's no turning. There's just stillness.
You gotta pull the bells, man.
We gotta get you out. No, we gotta do invasive maneuvers. We've got to get you out because something is dying inside.
Yeah, it's true. No, something is dead. Something is dead.
And it has to be revived. Because, okay, here's the point.
But this is where accountability and stuff like that come in.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's not even you to pull them out.
You gotta get somebody.
Sometimes, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It depends on your situation. Because maybe it may need to be a mentor. Or it may need to be somebody, you know what I mean, that understands what's going on.
Yes.
To say, no, or it come.
We need outside help. And I
Praise
never
God,
forget.
I never had to do that.
I never forget when Ulrich and I got to the stage that we could talk about things. He could actually come back out to say, Siobhan, this is where I'm at. And I don't know where we're going. Because God has said we're doing this, and it doesn't fit the blueprint of what I'm hearing from everyone else. Everyone else is saying this is their hymn sheet they're singing from, but God is saying, I want you to do this. A completely different word. Let me tell you, the revelation that gave us peace was when we heard Pastor Michael Todd preaching the same thing that God had spoken to us 4 years before.
Yeah.
So imagine God gives you, like the Abraham word. It's a completely different word. Before Abraham got that word, nobody had even heard of this God.
Come on.
Nobody had even heard of this Most High, Yahweh, Elohim. They were pagan.
Yeah.
They were doing their own thing. So now you've got this person saying they're hearing from God, saying leave your family and walk in the desert.
That was the other side to it.
Walk in the desert. Go to a place you've never been before. You don't know where you're going, and I'll tell you when you get there that you're there. And here's the joke: in everything that's going on, you're trying to communicate to the person who's walking with you. I'm hearing from this God that they do not hear from.
Yeah. Fully.
And they have to just move with you. They've got to just go with you. It doesn't make sense. It takes a trust, a faith in the God that you know that you serve. That He is in the God, in that same God is in the man, and that He can hear that same God. So even if, God, you haven't given the word to me, I trust that if you've given the word to Ulrich, he can hear you, and I will follow what I believe you have said to him.
And I think that answers what Shiloh was asking about. What if there's nobody? Because if there's nobody to pull them out, then you have to pray that through.
Yeah.
And I like what Arlene said as well about sending a spiritual grenade in there.
Yeah.
And just let it go off. Do you understand? And I think I think this is that is really powerful actually. I love the illustration because I think there's been many a times, and this is why it's really important, and Ephesians 5 just comes alive in my heart and in our relationship, where the Bible tells or instructs the man to wash their wife with the word.
Yes.
Because when God is speaking, it's important to communicate that to your spouse.
Yes.
Because what will happen is sometimes that word that you've given to her, when you're in the turn, you need to hear it.
That's right.
And there's been loads of times where Siobhan has literally had to send that spiritual grenade in and just say, no, but you remember you said that this is what God said.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
To remind me of the faithfulness of God. Because sometimes when you go into that cave,
you can forget.
You can forget. Do you understand? You can forget what God has done.
Very true. Very true.
And sometimes we even go into the cave where God has said, but we haven't seen manifestation.
Ooh, and that's the hard thing.
So when you go into the cave, there's almost an offense that you have with God, because it's almost like, but you said.
Hey.
But I haven't seen.
Come on.
What's going on? Now we're in a turn, and I don't understand. I don't know what to say, because now I look like the fool.
So right here, this is Noah. This is what Noah must have experienced. Noah is building an ark, preparing for rain, and saying to people, rain is going to come. And he's saying something that people have never heard. Rain.
Yeah, it hadn't rained on the earth.
It had never rained before. So now not only is he saying people, there's a flood coming, there's also rain.
I just got another revelation. Jesus. So there was vegetation from Adam to Noah, but there was no rain. Sorry, continue.
But the problem that he had is the rain that was coming was going to be at such an abundance, it was going to kill everybody. Jesus. Can you imagine something like this? You're explaining rain is coming and it's going to take life out.
Flood. Yeah.
And on top of that, it's years away. Because it didn't take him a day to build the ark.
That's right.
So he's building the ark for years. His sons, his family are building the ark in faith that their dad has heard a word from the Almighty God. Not them. They have never seen this rain before. And they are building, following their dad, following their husband to stand upon the word, to be ready. But the rain hasn't come yet. So you're like, yeah, but you're going to come through, right? You're going to come through, right, God?
I'm sure Noah was in the cave, mate.
Because I haven't seen anything. And I thought, because you gave me the word, in 2016 it would have happened by now.
Come on.
But it still hasn't happened. So people are thinking, are you really there? Are you really in line with the Spirit? Because I haven't seen the fruit of what you're preaching.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you don't have the fruit and people are now measuring you against
what you said? Guys, it's powerful.
It's not easy.
But yes, Arlene, thank you for that. Because it's true, God is not sleeping. And yeah, just to answer that question to Charlotte, like, do you know what I mean? There might not be somebody there in the natural, but trust me, man, God knows.
Absolutely.
God knows, and He sees, and you know, when the Bible says, in the fullness of time, you know, sometimes you just have to ride it out.
Yeah. And
just wait for that fullness of time for the revelation to happen, and for God to just do what He's gonna do. And it's so hard. And that's why this faith walk, it's not for the lighthearted, you know. We sometimes preach it so like it's such an easy thing, and sometimes because you got a smile on your face when you're doing it, people just think, oh yeah, this is easy, yeah, you can do it. But when the rubber hits the road, trust me, it can make or break you. And that's why you have to make sure that you're deeply rooted.
Absolutely.
Deeply rooted in God, deeply rooted in your faith and what you believe God is going to do.
And I love what Shida asked before about, you know, like, what if there's no one there, and how do you pray them through and things like that? And well, the comment that you said was you have to pray them through. And I totally agree with you on that. What comes to mind, and I think I mentioned it last week, was the point of when you're with someone is not just, when you get married to them, it's not just, oh yeah, they look amazing, or oh yeah, they make me breakfast in bed. But can they carry you in the Spirit?
Yeah, that's right.
Is the person able to see you where you're at?
Yeah.
When you're at your lowest, when you can't even do it yourself, can they carry you? And these are the things. This is what it means to carry them in the Spirit through what they've experienced.
Absolutely, definitely. So, do we even have time to even touch on autopilot?
No, we gotta go to that next week. Honestly, there's so much more. There's more to cover in the man cave.
Yeah. So, guys, let us know what you think. Have you experienced this? It's okay. We won't divulge. So, when do you draw the line and call them out? Yeah, Deborah. So I think it's, again, like it's really difficult to prescribe, because every situation is so different. Do you know what I mean? And that's where, you know, I would suggest, obviously, you know, some level of, you know, counseling, you know, that type of thing, because sometimes when it gets too far, you know, and there's you know, it seems like there's no hope. Do you know what I mean? You may need to try to find somebody that they would speak to, and I know that even saying that is difficult, you know, because another issue that comes with this is, you know, the breaking of trust.
Woo!
Because when they're going through something, or they've done something which is outside of character,
come on, somebody,
how do you help them when you can't help them? But you know that if you spoke to a friend of theirs, they might be able to reach them where you can't. But by you doing that, you break the trust.
Yes.
And make them feel essentially vulnerable and exposed to somebody who they may not necessally want
to know
that they've messed up in that way, or that they've done whatever madness they've done.
Now, sorry, please. You can't even glaze over that one. That one was cold as ice. It was rock hard. Listen, no joke. This right here is the conundrum. It is like the chicken or the egg. Do you seek outside help to help your spouse because they've shut down? But do they see it as a betrayal
come on.
for you going to get help because it exposes them to someone who they may not even want to listen?
Yeah.
I remember there was a season. There was a season where Ulrich had categorically said, listen, we can't speak to certain people about this. And they're the first people that we would naturally have gone to about it. And so it was like, how do I go through this and not turn to the ones who I would have normally drawn strength or counsel or wisdom? And when I say the season lasted like almost a year and a half, so it wasn't like, okay, well, you're just not talking to them for now. No, this was a long season that it now impacted. Even now, what we have, like, it is estranged. It's not what it was. And it's a price to pay. Do you release a friendship that means a lot to you for the sake of your marriage? To uphold a unity?
But I think, you know what I think? And I've never said this before, but I think if you have covenant friendships,
yes, which you need,
and I say covenant friendships, people who understand you, they understand your spirit, they understand who you are, they understand, you know, your marriage, your relationship, you know, people who may have known you for a long time, or people who have just got to know you recently. I'm not really trying to put a time frame on it, because covenant friendships are just that. They just get you. Do you understand? I think a conversation needs to be had with those people, particularly relationships where you know the husbands know each other, the wives know each other, you know, and there's a bond. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think with those types of relationships, there needs to have a conversation to be like, look, if I mess up, can Siobhan come to you?
Yes.
Because this never happens, and that's why it just fell in my heart. Because even now, I'm thinking of particular people who I would.
There are very few, like one
hand.
Less
one
than
hand.
Yeah.
You know, where I would say, yo, if I went off the rails, you have my permission to call this person and say, Ulrich has dropped off.
And you know
Can you
what?
call him and bring him back to the most holy?
You're preaching. Because, okay, hold on a minute. When your child signs up to go to school or to nursery, you have to put an emergency contact.
Well,
when you get a mortgage on a house, you have to take out an insurance. Now, the point of those things is, this is a valuable possession. This is something that is worthwhile, it's meaningful, there's so much in it. So how is it now you've got your marriage and you don't have your break glass and see this person? If anything were to go down, I need to be able to break the glass and call one or two people and know whatever I share with them, it will not diminish how they see this man of God in their eyes. And it's confidential. So it won't be put up on social media with some meme or something else. Or someone preaching it in a sermon the following week. It's not going into that.
Definitely. Because I think, do we have those types of conversations? Because it literally just fell in my heart. Because I think it's really, really important. Because I think sometimes one of the things I've learned, you know, throughout my walk as a Christian is that, you know, you're going to go through things, but accountability is so important.
It's priceless.
And when you can have, you know, marital accountability.
Yes.
you know, and it can be it can be for different things. Do you know what I mean? Because some things, you know, you may need to go see your pastor because it's really, you know, it's really deep. Do you know what I'm saying? But then there's others where it's like, no, these are my bona fide people, and I can talk to them and just be like, yeah, you just acting strange. Do you know what I'm saying? And and we just come in and help each other and support each other because honestly, that's what it is. And I know, like, friendships is such a mad thing, you know, when it comes to Christendom, because there's trust and all of these issues.
Can you really say this? Can you really say that?
Like, how far can you go?
How real can you be? How honest? How much can you share?
It's true.
There's levels to it, and there's expectations around it.
Yeah, and a level of vulnerability as well.
Because, okay, prime example, I never forgot when Ulrich and I were dating. I went to someone about something that I thought it would be okay. And the response that they gave to Ulrich afterwards proved to me I can't do that again. I can't do that again. And unfortunately, if you haven't been able to talk about those things, you may find that you share in the wrong way.
Yeah, 100%.
And then there are consequences.
Yeah, it's not nice. It's just not nice. So yeah, guys, just definitely pray. I think we're gonna definitely do a part 2.
Definitely part 2. This is Man Cave part 1.
Yeah, we should have just done Man Cave still and just see where we get to. But yeah, you're right, Kayon. You know, people mean well, but they may not be ordained to support your relationship.
It's true.
Definitely. And sometimes you find that out the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, because some people who you expected to be, you know,
so true, Shida.
Covenant relationships, or people who you expected to almost have a particular place in your relationship. You know, certain circumstances and situations may happen where, you know, that gets lost. Yeah. You know, and sometimes as much as it hurts, you have to be mature enough to just be like, well, you know, it's not meant to be. You know, we just keep it moving. Yeah. You know, and God will send, you know, people who we can trust and
exactly the right people.
And yeah, you just, you know, and I think just like journeying, the key is about journeying with people. Yeah. Not being so, you know, prideful that you just think, oh, because you're not on my level, then, you know, we can't ramp. It's just it's horrible. But it's really about understanding how to journey with people and understand that, look, we're all in this together. Absolutely. Nobody is perfect. Absolutely. Nobody is, you know, above each other. It's just, look, we're trying to reach the goal, the high calling. Do you know what I mean? That's where we're trying to go. And just being there to support each other, man. That's where it's really at. So guys, Man Cave and Autopilot, I think we're just gonna have to do part 2 next week, where we talk to the gal them, talk about Autopilot and Jesus, what that means. Hey. Yeah, I'm excited on that one, mate.
Hopefully all of this congestion would have gone by then.
Amen. Healing in Jesus' name. Yeah, it's mad. My throat is on fire, guys. Jesus. I have no idea. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Apologies possibly to Facebook and YouTube. I think maybe our sound went out for a little while. We're hoping it didn't go out for too long. I just really realized it stopped working. But anyway, I hope that you guys have enjoyed tonight and that it's brought some sort of clarity and given you some insight, hopefully, definitely. You know, to how to navigate through those turns where your men may be in, because it's not just your spouse, it could be your brother, or it could be your uncle or your dad. I mean, if it's your dad, it's not really your responsibility to try and get involved.
You never know. You never know.
Just speak to mummy, innit?
Mummy's not
if mummy's there, that's true. It's true. Very true.
There's all kinds of stuff going on.
Very true. But guys, it's been amazing. See you guys next week. Have a blessed week. And
to it as well.
Yeah, man. We'll see you guys next week for Autopilot.
Woo woo.
Yeah, we might touch on Man Cave again.
Yeah, I think
just a little bit. Summarize a bit.
We need to, yeah.
And then go from there. All right, guys. Much love.